Dear viewers, before we commence our Expert Speaks edition of this week, let me at the outset wish you all a very happy 2025. In this episode, we are going to take you through what we observed in the stock market in the last quarter and what is that we expect the stock markets to do in the next quarter. So, this is our quarterly update on the Indian stock market. The guest speaker for today is fund manager Harini Dedia. Stay till the end of this video. Very fine points have emerged because of this evaluation, and there is a lot of things that you have to take into account before you decide to invest during the next quarter. This is NRI Money Clinic for you, and I am Dr. Chandrakant, but your financial guide for a happy living.
NRI Money Clinic. No hype, just the right advice.
Over 95% of the people do not have proper retired life. The reason is no planning or the faulty planning. What happens during your retirement days is unpredictable. Most of the things that happen during your retirement days can never be predicted in advance. Inflation, interest rate, how long you are going to live, what happens in the case of your spouse, everything is a mystery. Retirement planning is a maze that you have to solve yourself. If you have an intention to create a beautiful retired life, it calls for meticulous planning. I can be of help to you. I have helped thousands of families spread across over 60 different countries in my career spanning over 2 decades. If you want to learn this art of retirement planning, you can attend to my seminar on retirement planning. The details are here. Dear viewers, the expert to talk about the quarterly update of the market is fund manager Harini Dedia. Those of you who watch our channel regularly have already know her introduction. For those of you who are yet to know who Harini Dedia, let me give you a brief introduction about her. Harini Dedia is a fund manager who is working with Tamohara Investment Manager. She started a career way back in New York and subsequently she moved to India. She is a regular presenter of this quarterly updates on our channel. Welcome to this episode, Harini Dedia.
Good evening, Dr. Bhatt, and thank you so much for having me on your show in time for our quarterly review. And this time around, I think we'll try to land with the punches and keep it a little bit shorter, simply because a lot of what we've discussed in the last 3 to 4 quarters seems to have come to fruition in terms of how the markets have reacted, how individual stock prices have reacted, and what has really happened. So without further ado, I think I will just get straight into it. Before we really understand what are the underlying, moving pieces and how we expect them to shape up, I think it's always important to take note of what has really happened, right? How the macro stacked up. So there's not been too much change from the last time we spoke. And it seems very funny to say that because it seems that in the last 3 months, the plethora of, global events that have happened, the most sort of significant of them all being the US presidential election outcome and, the consequent run-up that we've seen in select stocks in the US as a result of that. But when you see it after the Fed meeting that happened in the 3rd week of December, it seems like nothing has really shifted, right? Nothing has really moved. So it's 3 months where we all seem to have aged a lot. We all seem to have seen a lot. And then the displacement at the end of it all is very, very minimal. Really what has happened is the only place that's really visible is in the US 10-year, so to speak, right? If you see otherwise, S&P 500, Dow Jones, gold, it's all pretty much flat. So the big change globally that we've seen is, of course, in the US 10-year, where we've seen a sudden spike. One of the reasons for that is very, very clear indication that have come in from the Fed meet, where, the discussion has been far more hawkish than I think what most people expected. And they've completely toned down any expectations of rate cuts next year. So that is something that is really playing up on the fixed income side. But when we come and see what has happened at the Indian equity markets, I think maybe it was the Q2 earnings season that was a rude wake-up shock. Maybe it was the Q2 GDP print that was a rude wake-up shock for some. But it's something that has been a problem in India for the last 3-4 quarters now, that sales growth has been elusive. And somehow this time around, it has all come to roost at home together, so to speak. So if we really take a longer view, this is in fact the sixth quarter where India Inc., right? So we are looking at BSE 500. So these are the top 500 companies in India. Sixth quarter in a row where sales growth is come in single digits, right? Now, the last financial year, this was completely hidden because we were recovering from rock bottom margins. And so the margin expansion ensured that we saw EBITDA and PAT growth come in far, far ahead, north of 20%. But what has been disappointing, which we've spoken about for the last four calls, is sales growth, and that continues to be anemic. And now that margins are operating at near about peak levels, there's no more room for margin expansion, which is where earnings growth has started converging with sales growth. That has come down to single digit as well. And in fact, in Q2, we saw degrowth because you can't grow in single digit in nominal terms in a country like India and expect your margins to sustain, right? The cost inflation will come and get you. So this is something that has been a problem. And now if I had to venture out and take a guess as to when we would be out of this problem, I would probably place my bets on somewhere around maybe Feb to April, Feb to May. But that's the 3-4 month window where I think that we would sort of break out of this, single digit sales growth problematic phenomena that has really plagued Indian Inc. for the last 6 quarters. The reason why I say that is, when the government capex engine gets slowed down, it takes time for everything else to wind down in the economy, right? It's not that, okay, if I switch off something, everything goes off in an instant. So as the government capex was being slowed down in preparation for election and different welfare programs and a little more spend consumption spend oriented programs versus capital spend oriented programs, you would see a petering out of growth that was coming in manufacturing in other sectors basis that capex spend. As the government has started picking up this capex spend, especially post the monsoons, October onwards, we've seen government spends doing far better than what they were doing in H1. I feel that it takes about 3 to 4 months. There is a 3 to 4 months of a lag with which this spend sort of translates into on-ground effect. And that is something that we will start seeing happen in somewhere around Feb, March. I think what will also happen is hopefully, as most are predicting, that we do have a good Rabi season that is following a decent Kharif season as well. Be it water levels or expected weather patterns, everything seems to have aligned for that. So by Feb, March, most of the farmers would have a great sense of what kind of harvest they would end their year with, and we think that itself will sort of help for domestic demand again. So somewhere around March, April is when we would expect, things to normalize. And by normalize, I mean for India to grow at low double digit in terms of nominal GDP, because 8%, 9% is just not going to cut it, right? We have to, this is our time, and this is our time to grow at least 11.5 to 12.5%, somewhere in that range. So I think that's something that's coming up. And that would be our guess going forward. So in the last 4 quarters, you would have heard us and you would have heard me say that this is a problem, this is a problem, this is a problem. And I think if I had to put my neck out there and say that this is the light at the end of the tunnel, I would probably say that the light would be visible sometime February onwards. But for now, what has happened is our relative earnings have started underperforming as well. By relative earnings, we of course mean comparing the yield that we get from Nifty earnings and comparing it to the 10-year GSEC yield, right? So earnings yield is essentially an inverse of the PE ratio, which is at about 4.4% today. And my 10-year government security is trading at 6.9% yield. So the spread is at about 2.5. And typically, when we see this kind of a gap between the 10-year GSEC and Nifty earnings yield, the return expectation for Nifty, which is the headline index, is about 11 to 12%. Right. The closer the earnings yield is to the GSEC, the higher my return expectation would be. So currently we are at that point of time where, we should not really expect anything beyond low double digit kind of a return for the next 1 year. If I had to venture out another guess on this, it would be that this would be a bit back ended. So we might see zero returns for the next 3, 4, 5 months, and then we might see 11, 12% on Nifty coming in a very short period of time, post that, when we sort of see any sort of fructification of this demand, percolating down, like the government spend percolating down into actual demand creation. So that is how we look at it right now. But one indication of this is, that there is pockets of overvaluation that still persist. But if you look at it, the overvaluation now remains to be a small company phenomena. So we have the small cap index, which is trading at a 40 to 50% premium to its long-term averages of 5 and 10 years. If I look at it on a PE basis, and of course on a price to book basis, the premium is far higher. And mid cap, which is at a 20 to 30% premium. So the message to us is very clear. If you want to be on the smaller companies, you absolutely have to be where the earnings are. This is not the time to, be brave and, try and follow narratives, try and follow fairy tale stories and all of that. Wherever the earnings are, be there. Wherever you're confident earnings will show up much faster than elsewhere, be there. Wherever you think, this government spend pickup that we've seen in October, November, and, hopefully it's sustained through December as well. So wherever you see that spend sort of showing up, be in those spaces, and there's definitely money to be made over there. And maybe another 3, 4 months, Nifty at an index level will sort of come at par with its long-term average valuation. So that's not something that we would be too worried about, simply because, as we've discussed in the past, we don't really see any leverage issue in the system in India today. So I think if one had to take just an index level call, probably better off in the Nifty 50. If one had to, and we'll discuss another reason why that really is the case. And if one really wanted to play the smaller companies, it's definitely very clear that this is going to become a far narrower valley for the near term, right? Like I said, another reason to really focus on Nifty is one thing that has been happening this year so far, this financial year so far, is we've seen money being taken on by the foreign investors, right? And it's very popular in India to sort of say that, hey, there's enough SIP flows, there's enough local domestic mutual fund flows that we don't really need the foreign investors. But here's the data point that shows us that what domestic investors do is only help us protect the downside. We need the foreign investors to come back in a big way to make supernormal returns in India. So let's take 3 instances. One is, of course, 2013 to 17, when we saw a $50 billion inflow of FII money, and we saw BSE 500, the broader market, sort of rally by 100%, and mid caps and small caps almost by 150%. The next instance was, coming out of COVID, so 2021, $27 billion of inflow, net inflow. This is all net numbers. And we saw a 50% plus rally in the top 500 companies. And then, of course, 2023 to March 24, when we saw, $32 billion of inflow, and again, another 50% increase in BSE 500 levels, and almost 100% increase in mid and small caps. So whenever there has been a good chunky net inflow from foreign investors, we've seen, supernormal returns, great returns come through. What has happened is, now when they, do take out money, DII flows ensure that our downside, especially in the broader markets of BSE 500, is pretty much capped, right? So if I were to look at it now, I would say that that's probably another 40-50% of FII selling that would still be left, given their history, right? Because assuming that this goes on to be the peak FII outflow that we've ever seen in absolute terms, which is close to about $40 billion that we've seen in 21-22. So if that were the case, I think we've only seen about 40% or 50% of that outflow. And I think potentially we could see a little more withdrawal before sort of this FII selling stops. But when it does stop and when it does convert to net inflows, I think the first mover would be Nifty 50, right? So now if I have to corroborate that with our expectation that somewhere around Feb to May, you will see, some improvement in your data points, in the macro data points coming out of India, in the corporate earnings coming out of India. If both of them had to be put together, I think both of this would happen around the same time, that, your FII would convert from net outflow to net inflow, and you would see some numbers sort of shifting around. That is potentially when we think you would see, really outsized money being made again. And the first buying that FIIs do is typically in Nifty. They typically first start with the biggest and the best companies in India, and then of course they move down the ladder after that. If one had to really position themselves for this, I would say that probably in the next 2-3 months, if volatility gives you an opportunity to start deploying money again in India, this would be a good time. And the reasons for that we've discussed as to what we expect going forward. It's going to become a narrower rally in that you would definitely want to be only where the earnings are. Definitely not want to avoid spaces where things were just led by narrative, because we are expecting that the next sort of leg up push will come from FII buying, and they will definitely be following the earnings trail more than anything else. So with that in mind, just trying to delve into some of the individual sectors and what our expectation is on how they would perform. I think last time we had highlighted private banking. We've been highlighting this actually for 4 quarters, and I think our view pretty much has stayed the same, and it still continues to stay the same. 2 other segments that we had highlighted were power and building products. And by power, we mean capex ancillaries, not the OEMs. But we think that energy transition is going to benefit a lot of ancillaries, and there's some really niche, interesting businesses to look at in India. Some of them who are actually world leaders in their space. So, we've recently also added one such company to our portfolio. So we are definitely biased, but so do take this view with a pinch of salt. But that's where we think that we see sustaining government and private spends happening. Another area is building products. 2021, 2022, 2023. These are 3 consecutive years where real estate sales in India saw great traction. And if you see the projects in 2021, if you see their RERA filings and guidelines, pretty much start coming to fruition somewhere in mid-2025, calendar year 2025. So when these constructions start coming to closer to delivery, you would see many more things, sort of see a pickup in demand, right? Because when you're closer to deliveries, when you need to use your tiles, your sanitary ware, your fans need to be installed, your ACs need to be installed, all of that. And these are companies that pretty much for the last probably 2.5, 3 years have done zilch in India, right? They've given zero returns. Sales has been pretty tepid, barring some segments that there is some replacement demand. So we think that valuations have become fair here, and there is definitely a scope for pickup in growth and margin expansion, especially second half of 2025 onwards. So this is something we had covered last time, and I think what we're saying now, so our view on building products stays the same, and in fact we've seen prices get a bit more enticing and interesting. So we've added a couple of names in this space now to our portfolio. Private banking, we've sort of really beaten this to the ground by saying that there are a few large private banks that we see doing 15% growth at 15% plus ROE that are trading at their historical low valuation. So I think this is a good sort of anchor to have in the portfolio. The 2 sort of new things, so to speak, that we are calling out. One is, of course, instead of power ancillaries, we are sort of broadening the reach and saying cap goods, consumables in general, anything that is a short order cycle product in the space. We are seeing some companies here come back to a reasonable valuation. So in line with our earlier view that government capex the engine has sort of restarted. It will take time for the motor to spin out things that go absolutely to the ground level. But in line with that view, what we really see happening is some capital goods companies could show really good traction, especially in the short order cycle, because that's the first sort of space that gets a movement in earnings. And these companies are now available at a fair valuation. I would still not say they're cheap, but they're available at a fair valuation, definitely, versus what they were trading at in the past 12 months. Another space that's starting to become interesting for us, we started to evaluate ideas over here, is the chemical space, right? And I think during COVID, they had a gala time, most chemical companies in India, because there was a surge in exports. There was a lot of stocking up of inventory that started happening because people were very fearful of when the supply chains would close down again. And most of the chemicals in the world, get supplied from Asia to the rest of the world. So in fear of supply chains closing down, there was a very solid inventory buildup that we saw. And, as a result, in late 22 or when 23, early 23 onwards, we saw a very significant inventory destocking happening. And now that has run its course. So we think prices of most chemicals themselves, not chemical companies, but chemicals themselves have bottomed out. The only glitch to this entire thesis remains that post, Donald Trump's election as the president of the United States, we've seen it's almost forced China's hand in starting to dump product at competitive prices, creating some artificial pressure on prices because they would want to sort of get rid of whatever excess production they can before he comes to power. So there is some artificial pressure in some select segments over there. But apart from that, we believe that prices have bottomed out. Inventory destocking has run its course. And there's definitely a very palpable recovery in volumes that we've seen in domestic supply chains for sure, but even in some select chemistries in their exports as well. So we've seen companies that do oleochemical exports, that do exports of ATBS, for example, some anhydrides, for example. We've seen a lot of traction in their volumes, and we think that this could start becoming a little more widespread, especially post Jan-Feb, once President Trump is in office and this China dumping also sort of comes off completely. So these are the two new sort of segments that we would like to call out, where I think there's a lot of marrying of underlying macros, valuations becoming decent because stocks haven't moved for the last 2-3 years, earnings traction coming through. So a lot of trends sort of that we spoke about in our market and economy review that help these companies as well. So that's where we would incrementally be looking to find new ideas in. Other than that, I think, the big takeaway for us is, though if you read the newspaper, it may not seem like it, but for us, we have now started to, maybe falsely, maybe incorrectly, but we have started to see light at the end of the tunnel. That's where we wanted to sort of leave this conversation at today. We hope you have a very happy holiday season and wish you, Dr. Bhatt, and wish you all your viewers a very, very happy new year, and look forward to interacting with you soon again. Thank you so much.
Dear viewers, hope the commentary governed by Harini Dedia gave you an insight about what she observed in the last quarter, as well as what is that likely to happen going forward. If you like this presentation, please do give me a thumbs up. If you are somebody who is yet to subscribe for the channel, please hit that subscribe button and press the bell icon. Do not forget to share these videos with your near and dear ones, friends and relatives, and on all the WhatsApp groups on which you are connected with. Thank you very much for watching this episode on NRI Money Clinic. I shall be back with you with yet another episode of Expert Speak next Tuesday. Till then, stay safe. Jai Hind.
Press the bell icon for more details and subscribe our channel.